Hello, Ontario Autism Coalition, uh, adult division. My name is Tara. I'm in Alberta. I don't know if any of you have kept up with Alberta's politics or what's going on here. Well, maybe you'd like to know, maybe not. I'd like to know what the heck you guys are doing because it seems here the government really dislikes the people with disabilities. Um, I'm quite happy and, in fact, to find that Ford, well, whichever pissed off mama slapped Ford's behind for being a bad boy, I wish that mama had come over here and slapped Kenny's behind along with the whole horde of them. Because, well, when Kenny came to power, along with his tribe, he went after people with disabilities straight out of the starting gate. Number one, we have a little thing here called PDD. It's a program for persons with developmental disabilities. It is a funded program for which pays for things like getting the right resources for which people with disabilities might need, say, learning how to um, wash yourself properly, or being more independent, or helping you with banking, that stuff. Or even something as simple as trying to find a job. Now, to further on down the line, a few months later, straight out of the blue, he denies funding to the blind. 2 weeks later, the blind centers all over Alberta go belly up, except for two. One in Edmonton, one in Calgary, which leaves a lot of people that need services blinded, or is it side blinded? Anyway, moving on. He has cut services for other programs for disabilities, changed age to the point of being a three-tier system, which is kind of the ODSP that is in Ontario, Ottawa, that is given to people with disabilities. It's the assured income that people live on. Yeah, we've got a few forms of it here. One is barriers to employment. I don't know what you would call it there. The other one is age. And then we've got other types of things. That was de-indexed because 2 years ago, just before the election, NDP notched it up to almost 1,700, and for the last 2 years it's been going down by $30 every single month. And since COVID hit, people have been paying extras on hand sanitizers and things that they can't afford because, well, rent here is between $1,000 to $1,400 a month. How do you live off of $1,400, which is average these days, and get food and pay your bills and then to top it all off, he changed PDD yet again and turned that into a two-tier system. It was bad enough that people that apply for it, they go through a test phase for which tests your IQ instead of looking at your diagnostics that a professional within the criteria of autism would most likely give you after testing you, for which tells you exactly where you belong when in concerns to receiving or getting help. Unfortunately, if you're above 70 IQ, you are boned because you get nothing. Oh, here's the fun part. If you're on age, it turned into a three-tier system. So first you apply, and then you wait a couple of weeks, 2 months, to get excelled to the next level. If you don't qualify for the medical end, you're denied altogether. So fun times for the people with disabilities in Alberta. Here's the other one. I just found out that there was a new criteria put out for autism strategy. Yeah, I read through that. It doesn't look quite finished, but I can tell you right now, I'm not impressed. Because I'm an adult with autism in a province for which accessibility forgot them. When I came to Alberta 20 years ago, I came from person-centered programs. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you today. Yay! What does it matter? I have autism and I'm in Alberta, and our government hates anyone of difference. Unless if you have deep pockets and you can give them money. So, in other words, if you're not into oil, you're screwed. Those person-centered programs help me keep my autonomy and my independence all at once. They help me exercise the areas that I needed to improve on, and the areas that I would never develop, well, they took over. So essentially, I had workers for everything from accommodation on the job to advocacy. And frankly, I am very disappointed in my province, because now for adults, unless if you have severe or physical needs, you get nothing. So that means that our families, our lovers, our friends, all just signed up to be workers for which they're not trained for. Yay me! If my husband dies, what friend shall I enlist in order to help me with my finances? That sort of thing should fall upon a disability skills coach or community social workers, for which Alberta told get lost many years ago, when our lovely other CP premier, Ralph Klein, the drunkard that went into shelters, dropped money on the floor and said, get a job. He hated the vulnerable situations. People like me, people like you. So, now you have the whole story. Oh, wait. Just this year alone, he dismantled the healthcare system, and as well as most social systems for which people like me might possibly need, or those that are of average sense might need, because, well, COVID will cause you to be screwed up. Probably more than me if you're average, because you don't know how to deal with having a disability. So, enough said about that. As for the autism strategy, I'm a little bit disappointed in it. Number one, here in Alberta, if you have autism, you're adult, it's called adult support group. Let's go to a room and complain about a life you can't fix. How productive is that? It's not. And haven't you guessed? I do sarcasm. Yay me! Sorry, being a little facetious here and sarcastic. I'm 45 years old. I have invisible disabilities, autism and ADHD. If I say I need help, every autistic that I've ever run across that has issues similar to mine, they're independent, probably have kids, they look at their mate and think, oh, my mate's going to get sick. Where's my natural support's going to be next? If you can't bank. You don't understand the value of money. Okay. How do you support yourself if you don't qualify for the funded programs? How do you navigate a system made for people of average mindset? Far be it from me to say, set up those goddamn bloody person-centered programs and quit taking things away from people who need them. Just because it looks expensive on the paper and it looks like your worker's just having coffee at a restaurant with you? What happens if that restaurant's noisy and you have sensory issues? Maybe it's helping you calm the sensory issues by introducing you to environments for which might set it off. Far be it from me to argue. But I digress. The problem with this new strategy thing, I've read through it, and it goes mainly towards children, and it's online. Number one, online stuff doesn't work for people with autism. It doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult, and no parent should be transformed into a psychologist unless if they have 8 to 10 years of experience or education within a system. Number one. Number two, parents don't live forever. What are they going to do when their kids reach adulthood? Are they going to ask their friends to do the same thing that the parents did? I don't think so. Friends don't sign up for that shit. Bring on the disability coaches or community social workers for which people like me need. Quit bringing about box or funnel systems because it's round pegs, square holes, people. I don't fit, and I don't come from a mold. I don't fit those programs. Stop making things for just kids. People with disabilities need help too. There's people like me in all genre of disability, but yet we go towards the cute end of disability, for which people like me get downgraded, treated like crap, and it's like, oh, funny, you don't look autistic. And we invoke and allow certain issues to happen and to persist when it comes to certain beliefs and misnomers about autism ending at 10 years old. Unless one is severe, then they might rock and make noise. Great. Sorry, but I don't look like that. I'm talking to you. I don't make noise. I open up my mouth and start talking, whether I make sense or not. I hope so. But is anyone listening to me? Is anyone listening to my autistic friends? Is anyone listening to the autistic community? How many times do we have to mention that we don't need people to speak for us? We need people to speak with us. I won't and don't like it when people speak for me. I can make for my own good advocate just for myself. When are you going to allow us to speak? When are you going to allow us to be what nature gave us? Not all of us are going to develop tact, diplomacy, or soft skills. I know I never did. They've tried to teach me that for 46 years. It's not going to happen. I've been a caregiver since I was 15 years old with a mother with multiple sclerosis. You know what? Stop beating the dead horse and allow us to be our natural way. Teach us how to communicate in such a way that we call it effective communication, so we get our point across. 2, develop certain life skills projects for which a person actually learns how to cook and clean so that they don't become hoarders. I clean people's houses. Half the people I know that have disabilities are hoarders. 4, when it comes to aging autistics, have specialized people and or programs within certain structures or facilities to address people that are just like me, so that they can actually maybe judge whether it's the autism or the dementia causing the issue. Makes sense to me. No doctor, no nurse, and no caregiver is trained in that sense. There is no facilities anywhere in Canada unless if you go to BC. Victoria, I've seen it online. The other one I would suggest is you take that strategy and include adults. Instead of having a room to complain about a life you can't fix here in Edmonton for adult support, how about adding programs, resources, better accommodations? My barriers are invisible. I don't need a divot in the sidewalk. I need a divot in society's understanding. When we just concentrate on children, what about the rest of those who have what they have that still need help? The longer we just concentrate on children, the more we're hurting a system that we forgot. People just like me. And it's clear across Canada, it is systemic, and it is not right. And Alberta is getting worse by the day. It used to be the best province here in Canada, for which programs actually help people with disabilities like mine. I worked for 14 years doing security at a psych ward in Lethbridge. I did caregiving in nursing homes before one needed a piece of paper. And now, I get called a liability. Because people stopped trying to understand or educate themselves. When are we going to be a Canadian-wide coalition for which also stands up within the government systems to help adults on the spectrum? When are adults on the spectrum actually going to be represented within our government systems for which people like me stand up and eat at the same dinner table as the big boys and girls so that we can speak for ourselves? There should be a representation of at least one adult per province to head up an advocacy board which works both federal and provincial within all government systems. Because right now, the Disability Advisory Board within the federal government doesn't even represent our community at all. The Disability Act, Bill C-81, when it comes to accessibility, Alberta has no accessibility laws for the disabled, let alone any kind of protections for which would help people like me or anyone. That's why they're going after programs. That's why they're going after health systems. That's why they went after AISH and as well as PDD. And they keep on. Every time the UCP or CP are in power, that's exactly what happens. They always want to put their fingers in the dipper pot. But yet, they don't realize how people actually have to live when they get these kinds of monies and what these programs do for these people. They're just more than just a coffee date or socialization. They're also a teaching tool. And our government has been hurting us for far too long. And that strategy has to be put into communities and implanted at the ground level. It can't just stay online. It has to include people with disabilities across the board and as well as autistics. How about speaking with us? Not for us.